morning and welcome. My name is Eileen Crigliano and I'm the Assistant Head of School here at Staten Island Academy. It is my pleasure to be here today amidst the present and past honorees, as well as our future leaders, our Staten Island Academy students of today. I know the pandemic and other extenuating circumstances has prevented some of us from being together in this room. However, rest assured that we are celebrating the accomplishments of each of our inductees all the same. I've had the privilege of teaching to, learning from, and working with, and getting to know successful, distinguished alum from this amazing institution for the past 27 years. And today is just another reminder as to why I truly love being a part of this community. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to explain the format of today's ceremony. We will begin by inducting our 2022 Athletic Hall of Fame members and our 2022 Distinguished Hall of Fame members. Each inductee will be introduced by a person of their choosing or a representative from the school, followed by a few words from the inductees or a member of their family. The mission of Staten Island Academy's Athletic Hall of Fame is to recognize and honor student athletes and/or teams who have made significant contributions to the advancement of the athletic program at Staten Island Academy during their time at the school. All nominees must have had good standing while they were at the Academy and of high character since their graduation, something we believe is the true Academy way. It is no doubt that you will see why we are excited to honor these wonderful athletes as our 2022 Athletic Hall of Fame class. The second group of inductees may not be in the Athletic Hall of Fame, but they are truly game changers in their fields. Today, we honor them as distinguished alumni. As you know, the Academy can trace its roots back to the 1860s, and our official charter is dated in 1884, with our founder, Anton MacBessel. Since our founding, scholarship, leadership, and service are attributes that we continue to value and instill in our Academy students each and every day. You will hear this echoed throughout the program today and months and years ahead at Staten Island Academy. We have an incredible number of accomplished and distinguished alumni, and today the community is honored to recognize a few that have stood out. These individuals have had a positive impact on the Academy as students, and without question, have made a noteworthy impact on their community since their graduation. With that said, we are excited and honored to induct this impressive class into the 2002 Hall of Fame. Please help me welcome our first member to introduce our first inductee, Michael Mazzella, class of 1990, and our athletic director here at Staten Island Academy.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all here today. So many familiar faces. So it's great seeing some alumni back. And before I start, I just want to wish congratulations to all of our inductees today, our Athletic Hall of Fame members and our Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame members. We good? I can.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We work today. As Eileen noted, Mark, can we get those lights on a little more?
I think he's turned 50. Yeah, it's that age night. Do you need to borrow something?
Lights?
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. As Eileen mentioned, my name is Mike Mazzella, and I'm the athletic director here at Staten Island Academy. It's my honor to induct Pete Rapp Jr. to the Staten Island Academy Athletic Hall of Fame. It was my privilege to be teammates with Pete for 9 seasons over the course of the 3 years we were in high school together. Now, I thought that 9 consecutive seasons was a long time to be in the company of a rat. But of course, I say that now as I finish up my 27th year working with the godfather, the OG of Pete Raps, Peter's dad, who has been my colleague and my mentor for all these years. And I always get a kick out of people's reactions when I tell them I played ball with Pete Rapp, because many of them seem utterly confused and just figure that I either look absolutely fantastic for my age or that Pete looks terrible for his age. But let's get back to Pete Rapp Jr., although the story of the younger Pete is, of course, so intertwined with that of his father. I have to start, though, by telling you about my first day at soccer practice at the academy. I might have been 90 pounds back then, and I was certainly not the Adonis figure that you see before you today. I remember watching the juniors and seniors in the soccer program and marveling at their size and speed. Nico Brusco, Mike Fafian, Mike Savino, Danny Zappola. I was intimidated by these godlike uber athletes. Luckily, there was a JV team, and I happily took my spot and watched the varsity games from a distance, hoping that one day I would be able to compete at their level. Fast forward 1 year, when August tryouts found me as a sophomore, maybe 95 pounds, a bit faster, slightly stronger. I was still a bit in awe of the seniors, but I certainly wasn't prepared to be intimidated by a freshman. But that's just what happened when I stepped on the practice field against Pete Rapp. I was a year older than Pete, but he was so much more athletically gifted than I was. He was an absolute juggernaut on the field. Being strong and fast is one thing, but Pete also had the skills, the smarts, and toughness that would make him a 4-year varsity player and one of the top goal scorers and one of the top players in academy history. Pete jumped right in and more than held his own against the upperclassmen. There are players who seem to glide effortlessly on the fields of play, but grace and elegance aren't what I think about when I think of Pete. No, Pete was a locomotive on the field, chewing up ground and charging down the field while striking fear in the hearts of his defenders. His shot was part laser, but mostly cannon, and the sound of the ball coming off his foot was different than the sound when anyone else took a shot. And then there were Pete's throw-ins. Pete would start slightly off the sideline, take a few long strides, and then, using upper body strength that should have been illegal in a high school athlete, he would send the ball flying across the field. His throw-in more accurate and just as effective as a corner kick. Pete, along with his fellow Hall of Famer Harris Hott, would lead the Tigers to their first ACIS title during his senior year. And I guess the two of them can argue about who helped the other more on the soccer pitch. Did Pete's game thrive because teams focused on Harris? Or did Harris's game prosper because defenses were worried about Pete? Well, both of these theories are wrong. Truth is, they both turned into Hall of Fame players, and they both won because of me. Plain and simple. That's right, I had my whole career planned out. My freshman year, I started on the JV team, playing left wing and leading my team in goals. My sophomore year, I was a swing player, leading the JV once again and getting spot minutes playing on the varsity. By the time my junior year came around, Pete Rapp, the coach, had apparently sat down with his wife Martha one night and remarked, "That Mazzella kid, he's getting too many goals. I think Pete should be our main goal scorer." Of course, this has been related to me by a not so reliable source, but still I'm sticking to this story and this version of events. So junior year, I get taken off the forward line and was pushed back to the midfield by my coach, Pete Rapp. But I still put a few in the back of the net as a junior, so shrewd Mr. Rapp probably had another sit down, and I'm sure Pete was with him at this one, because when I showed up for my senior year, Mr. Rapp had moved me back to the defensive line, giving Pete more room to dominate the midfield and forward lines and to terrorize goalies with those laser and cannon shots. So you see, Pete, I should be getting inducted today for my feats and heroics on the soccer field. But no, you stole my glory, you stole my goals, and here I am inducting you. And it's all because your father orchestrated this scheme about 30 years ago. Of course, I'm only kidding, and I should actually thank Mr. Rapp for making me a defender. And I can tell you I certainly became a pretty good one after playing against Pete in practice every day. So anyway, after Pete graduated from the academy, his prodigious talents landed him on the Mitchell College soccer team, which would finish 4th in the 1992 national tournament. Pete also competed for the Cosmopolitan League select team for 3 years, as he played in tournaments throughout the country and overseas. This is not to say, however, that Pete was a one-trick pony. No, sir. He was a 3-sport athlete and was a super sixth man for my senior year varsity basketball team that finished with a 25-4 record and a number 7 ranking in the state. I was a starting point guard on that team, but if his father had been the coach, maybe he would have put Pete to that starting role. But I'm just kidding about that because I was a basketball player and that was never Pete's passion. Soccer certainly was though. But boy, could Pete do it all on the basketball court. His speed, strength, and size made him a Swiss Army knife on the court, able to guard point guards, power forwards, and centers. He could score from the paint, around the rim, from the mid-range, and even from three-point line. But Pete was at his best in the open court. I would lead a fast break because I knew how hard he ran on the soccer field. I could just sense that locomotive flying up the wing behind me, ready for a pass and a high-flying finish at the rim. Did I mention that Pete could dunk? Well, not consistently. Remember, this was back in the late 80s when few guys could get up on the Y-axis and throw one down. But he could definitely dunk better than our good 6'9" friend, John Young, our starting center on the team. Pete, standing all of 6'2", would come flying in from the wing, elevate, and then try to throw it down as hard as he could. Even when he missed, it was impressive. And I could look around the gym and smile in the knowledge that we had the best athlete in the gym on our team. Pete also excelled on the baseball diamond, not so much patrolling center field as much as stalking the whole outfield, just waiting for a poor hitter to line one into the gap, only to see Pete sprint to make a ridiculous catch and take away an extra base hit. On the mound, he was a fireball pitcher using a leg drive that came from the genetically gifted Rapp thighs to overpower hitters. Seriously, go into Mr. Rapp's office, take a look at the pictures on the wall. All right, you can see when he was playing soccer, when Pete was playing soccer. There were no longer baggy shorts back then, and you can see their legs were tree trunks. They had thighs of steel, both of them. Pete used those leg muscles, not to mention his determination, willpower, fierce competitive nature, to carry him to athletic greatness on the soccer field, on the basketball court, on the baseball diamond, and then in college. It's no wonder he's a Hall of Famer. He learned from the best and was a chip off the old block. But Pete, you certainly made a name for yourself. You were a hell of a player in all 3 sports that we played. It was an absolute thrill and an honor to be your teammate. Congratulations, buddy, and welcome to the Staten Island Academy Athletic Hall of Fame.
Thanks, Mike. Hope everyone can hear me. How's everybody doing today? Thank you very much to the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame committee for making it such a great honor. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I think some of you may know my dad. Actually, let me rephrase that. I know you all know my father, Mr. Rapp, or Coach, depending on what decade you graduated in. I know a guy that still calls him Tic Tac Rap, which is an 80s Europe trip nickname. Most of you would probably think that I'd credit the coach for my athletic career at the academy, but I'm not so sure. My mom did not have to roll the stroller onto the field. She also probably could have said no to a 6 or 7-year-old running the sidelines for the varsity soccer team. I'm guessing she could use the couple hours break by then. I've been told I was a little bit of a handful. They also didn't make me wear a helmet when I became the bat boy for Dad's other team, the varsity baseball team. But as soon as I was old enough, I started hanging around the varsity soccer practice. That's where my obsession was with soccer. I got to play with some of the best teams and players that the academy ever had. Hushiar, David Hines, the 1982 Mapes champs. A guy named Mark Herman taught me to kick a knuckleball. I got trampled by another guy named Paul Bob. Craig Chatilla, John Fafian were the goalies that let me score until it wasn't really up to them anymore. I'd like to thank all of those guys for putting up with the coach's son. Then Joe Ondo took over in middle school, coaching me for a couple of years. That was Sunday League soccer at Miller Field. That was when we could start playing basketball for school also. Bill Conti was the coach back then. Mr. Conti taught me all about basketball. Rest in peace, Mr. Conti. For me, it was back to soccer as soon as possible. We shoveled off the AstroTurf field at New York High School to start state cup games in March. Late practices in Rockland County. I'm sure my mother remembers those. We got lost. Really lost on a school night. Thanks, Mom. It was all worth it. It led to some great trips, training camps in Iceland, followed by tournaments in Holland and Denmark during a 3-week trip to Europe. The Bermuda Cup, the Dallas Cup, the Empire State Games in Syracuse, all because of my mom in that stroller? I don't know. I think it was my participation in all 3 sports that got me into the Hall of Fame. I had the privilege of playing on record-breaking teams with some record-setting guys. They voted me captain for a few of those teams. Junior year, we had that basketball team that Mike was talking about. He and John Young, man, they were like Stockton to Malone. That's why we finished 7th that year and won a championship. You two, not because of me. My senior year, we won 16 games. That was a school record. I had 17 assists that year. That was also a school record. I finished, I think, about 5th on the scoring list. I imagine I'm a little lower than that now. There was no recruiting back then when we played. Marcus Jacobs scored 60 points in a basketball game. That was a record. Paul Castellano had the home run record in baseball, thanks to a short right field porch. Darren Vaccaro got the hit record. That was just because of great hitting. We won championships in all 3 sports that year. Not bad for a bunch of preppy kids from Toad Hill. So thank you for listening to me reminisce about my time at the Academy. And thank you very, very much for this award. Have a great day.
Mr. Rapp, do you want to come up and take these forward?
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to see everybody. I hope next year at this time the auditorium is full and you don't have any viruses to worry about. One of the worst things that could happen to me was would be to speak after Mike Mazzella and before Dan Master and throw Mr. Freeman in there. I can't see anybody. That's why I'm still doing like this. But I'll do my best. One of the things that I do as a development director and alumni relations is try and stay in touch with our alumni. And I know you get a lot of information from me about fundraising and fundraising events, but my favorite part of the job is this, the alumni relations and finding out how great and wonderful you all are and what you do for the community. So thank you for tolerating me. So I'm here to present the award to Carol Brown Moskowitz, class of 57. She's here with her sister Nancy Brown Duvall, class of 48, which I did not know they were even sisters until a few weeks ago. Their brother attended the school, their mother attended the school, and their father was a trustee. I'll fix those records Monday. I had the pleasure of meeting Mrs. Moskowitz at our 2019 Hall of Fame induction ceremony. However, it wasn't the first encounter that I've had with her. As a good alumnus does, she shares information. She keeps in touch, tells us about her milestones and changes in her life. Sadly, in 2020, she shared the news of the passing of her beloved Stephen. I also had the pleasure of meeting him. The way that Mrs. Moskowitz would share her information was quite unique. She would get a great deal of information on a little tiny used envelope and send it to me. It wasn't written in the typical fashion left to right. It would often be in a circular pattern. And I knew at the time I need to look into her. I was very intrigued. I learned later that she was a deep and critical thinker and had much to share with the world. I remember remarking to Lori and Michelle, she is really accomplished. I have to learn more about her. I didn't know the half of it. Now, even more intrigued, I Googled her, I looked up her LinkedIn profile, and I didn't even know some of the acronyms that she had earned the suffixes to her last name. She has done extensive research on diseases that I've never even heard of. I'm happy to say that Mrs. Moskowitz and I now communicate via phone, text, and email. I've learned so much more, but I know I've only touched the surface. She has a very good sense of humor, and she is usually the brunt of it. I learned she was the editor of the quill while she attended the academy. I learned and was not surprised. She was shy and lacked confidence in her younger years. I picture her as someone who liked to just blend in, but her teachers knew at a very young age she had much more to offer. After graduating the academy, she studied, I'm sorry, I can't read this. I highlighted it in dark green. She studied social work and anthropology at Wagner College. Before transferring to Wagner, she attended Averett College in Virginia, where she didn't fare as well. The academic dean even asked her why she enrolled there, knowing that Mrs. Moskowitz did well at Staten Island Academy and was accepted to Bryn Mawr. She was failing accounting and shorthand, classes she surely lacked interest in, while excelling in French, history, and English. Mrs. Moskowitz attributes the watchful eye of Wagner College for helping her flourish. I quote her, "She found her ego, passion, and her husband all at the same time." After college, she worked as a fundraiser for Lincoln Center and then photography editor at Cosmopolitan magazine. As a social caseworker, she served the less privileged families in New York City. She earned her second bachelor's at Columbia University School of Nursing, where she planned to become a nurse midwife, but fell in love with research of the brain and the movement disorders in patients. She is an advanced practice registered nurse and certified neuroscience research nurse, and she has received multiple acknowledgments and citations in public research papers. She has an undeniable need to help others. Mrs. Moskowitz established a continuing education program for nursing aides, specializing in Huntington's disease patient care. Mrs. Moskowitz shared some of the things that she learned while at the academy. I found them interesting because they still are relevant today. Aim higher. We all have an obligation to make the world a better place and harness your passions. She also said she had a sense of belonging, something that most, if not all, of our students would say today. Another tidbit I learned while getting to know Mrs. Moskowitz better was she discovered her love for words at a very young age. She spent countless hours reading their family's monthly subscriptions. Her parents preferred the larger magazines like Look and Life. But younger Carol enjoyed the smaller magazine titled Reader's Digest. She was surprised to learn, as I, the Academy had banned the use of any Reader's Digest materials for a while in the 40s. I can only imagine the content was not considered educational. It was also a staple in my home for decades. When I arrived home this past Monday morning, I thought of young Carol when I received a sample edition of Reader's Digest in my mailbox. It's in your bag. I know I've only touched the surface of all of her accomplishments. I'm honored to know you, and I'm very honored to present you with the Staten Island Academy Distinguished Alumni Award. You want me to come down?
No, I can get there.
Okay.
Oh, braggadocio, I may fall.
No,
I need it.
I can come.
So I'm a photography editor, and I appreciate an excellent photographer, and here he is.
Thank you.
Okay,
Are you sure?
I'm good. I did, he did the key part. I only want to correct you once.
Okay, good. That happens a lot.
I'm known as good trouble. Don't call me Mrs. Moskowitz. I'm Carol Branham.
I know.
That's how it started out, and that's who I am now.
Carol, and I worked for a Markowitz, so this was really hard, as I was saying this the whole time. Let's take a quick picture before you go.
Okay. I'll unpack later. Okay. I'm only dressed up like this because everybody corrected me when I chose to wear my my Ukrainian t-shirt. Do I have to do another one? Or I have to show my teeth?
Thank you.
In my era, oh no, are you timing me now?
No, 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 you're okay. Your sister's fine.
No, she's not allowed to. I bought my cell phone.
You're fine.
Don't give me too much leeway because I'll take it. Okay, please handouts.
She has handouts?
Handouts. Just pass it in. And Kara is gonna hand the Kara's in my frame.
Oh, good. You're gonna hand them out?
I have a gift for Kara. I didn't look for it. I'm gonna use up my time. Oops. Okay, this is for Kara. This is all the words
Thank
and
you. Wow,
translated
that's nice.
different
Thank you.
languages. Where's Kara? Kara. Oh. Oh, here you go.
I'll give it to you.
Okay, Kara, you gotta look at this. It's every about 5 to 7 words to say mouchoir or handkerchief in different languages, so you can start to learn other languages because the key to happiness.
Keep going, baby. All around. All around. Go that way. Oh, he did. Go that way.
My sister will never forgive me for carrying another backpack. I've been dragging backpacks all over the world. Okay, I have 3 minutes and I only have 3 cards, so I know I've timed this. I'm not Mrs. Mouse, let's get that clear. Okay. Now, the phenomenal thing in getting ready for this, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very loud. I have a duck-like voice. I can't hear that. These pictures are fabulous. Why? Because these are absolutely 3 powerful women. We never acted like that in 1957. We were demure. Okay. But these terrific photographs of graduates just shows how the women's movement has moved. But, all right, over here. Ready? Yeah. Is that timing now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, how did I get here? I attended academy from 1st grade to 12th. I had 2 days, 2-year gaps, 7th grade and 8th grade, but for financial reasons, I went to public school. Woo-hoo, what did I learn there? Nothing. I learned that in contrast to private school, it was shocking. I spent 2 years doing nothing because I'd already done it in 5th and 6th grade. My mother actually tried to get rid of the first teacher. I won't talk about that. All right, here we go. When I began, when I was 5 years old, I was a baby bird. I'm gonna cry. Shit. I would never say that again.
She's not listening.
I had low self-esteem. I was a baby bird standing on the edge of the nest, looking at the rest of the world thinking, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm terrified. I'm in short stature, that hasn't changed. I'm highly distractible, that hasn't changed either. I'm terrible with my hands. As a consequence, I couldn't knit, I still can't knit, my sister still does. I can't sew, I can draw because of my Sharpie pens. I love Sharpie pens. Anybody who's clumsy with their hands, use Sharpie pens, I'm an artist. Notice I can't do my hair either. And I can't do makeup. So enough of all the things I can't do. It's a very long list, but the short list is what's good about me. I cannot lie. I cannot cheat. I cannot steal. Why am I crying? Oh. Those are my disabilities, I guess, too. But I couldn't measure up with other girls, so guess what I did? I picked boys. Boys were much more fun, and they were more democratic, and they were more outdoorsy. And they were very impressed that I could climb trees. Does my sister know this? I'm very good at climbing trees. Not anymore, but I was pretty good. And that impressed the boys. Okay, that was impressed. Yeah, everybody else was. Okay. My mother was a graduate from 1912 class of the academy. She wanted me to be a lady. I didn't have any skills, there's no way. But I love the truth. I love words. And in the Reader's Digest, they had something fabulous called Toward More Colorful Speech. People would curse my having learned that. I love florid speech. I love to embroider things to the point that people would say, Carol, cut back the adjectives, please. And as a scientific writer, I learned to get rid of all the adjectives. What did I learn from my classmates? I had 3 classmates who were outstanding. One was Billy, and I'm not going to give his last name. I don't know why I would ever disclose this confidential information, but he escaped World War II from Holland, and he wore leather shorts. And all the boys wore long pants, and they didn't mock him. They were very sympathetic. They were very kind to him, and he survived the academy because the other boys were good guys. Patricia was tall, beautiful, long blonde hair, very calm. The polar opposite of me. Patricia could be a lady. She spent every summer in hospital because of terrible cardiac disease. What did I learn from these 2 guys? That it's okay to be different, that you can still follow them. I can't believe I'm such a trip. Tommy, maybe you will recognize him. I don't know his last name, but I won't. He was unable to keep his shirt tucked in his pants. No matter what, his shirt was always hanging out. He didn't care. He was very funny, had a great sense of humor. And I thought, that's it. I can laugh at life. That was Tommy. So I thought, oh, as a baby bird, I can fit in. I can learn to fly. Oh, there's something key here. Why did I fly? How did I fly? Only because the classmates taught me that it was okay. Kara, are you making too much noise?
Sorry.
No, because I can't hear you. I just want.
She had to go
know
potty.
that she's not apologized to Kara. She's exceptional.
She is.
She's my newest friend. So I learned how to go with my gut, to travel, to learn other languages. Weird ones, okay? Nothing like Spanish, something useful, or French, because I was for a lady. I learned Albanian, I learned German, but in Albanian, I could only do a neurological exam. I couldn't go to a restaurant and make any sense. I couldn't have real conversations with anybody. But with my French from the academy was reborn for about a week of total immersion in the fancy house of the editor of Marie Claire. Marie Claire was the sister magazine to Cosmopolitan magazine. And Monsieur Henri didn't speak any English. Madame Henri said, I am very sorry, but you must speak French the whole time you are here because Monsieur Henri does not speak any English. Okay, I was ready because the academy taught me French. And I took French because I loved Mr. Sullivan. He was so handsome. He's a fallen priest or something. I don't know what he said, but he was terrific. And Miss Torres was there, Nanelle. I couldn't believe Miss Torres really had a first name. Alma? I thought her name was Manel. What's Manel? It's a shorthand for Mademoiselle. So I went off to this Monsieur Henri, and he asked me a rather complicated question. Excuse me, Carol, why have you never picked up, he asked me in French, I can say it in French now. I have never picked up the photographs on the piano. And I answered with a complex answer. Well, Monsieur Henri, I didn't look in your underpant drawer either. Are you in my committee? He laughed and he said, in perfect English, I must say, you have perfect French now. He spoke English and I said, show me your photographs. Look them up. He was having resistance. He was working with the Wall. He was working with all the British undercover folks to protect those that would have been killed by the Nazis during the Vichy occupation. I was shocked. He's perfect English. Okay, but then they became very pressured with my French. This is the dead balls. Okay, moving on, and over time already. What's nobody's waiting and telling me I'm over time. I'm not that interested. Okay, what's so special about the academy? Small classes. I learned that at the 30 students per class of my division of the 7th grade in PS 45. I drowned. If I hadn't been here, I could have gotten away with everything, except that the teachers here were passionate and compassionate, but they were very demanding. And they were very smart and they loved their subjects. And I realized they were fun and engaging, a little outrageous. One example, only one, I could go on forever, but one of them was Star. Before rap was Star. Julius Star. He would begin each Monday in our geography class. The sights and sounds of somewhere else. No, this is called geography. He was terrific. He made me love traveling. It's all his fault, okay? I have lived in every country except for Ukraine in Europe. We never got to Asia because that really bothered me. I couldn't handle it. So why did they become so distinguished? It's because the faculty were so demanding that I could not let them down. They were spending so much energy. I I felt I had to do that much energy to give it out so that I wouldn't disappoint them. So I have flown for my safe nest because the faculty believed in me. Now I'm in overtime, so let's stop now. You agree? What do you think, Kara? Enough? Kara says my time is up. But you gotta look at your tissues, you sure.
I got him.
Where are they?
I have him. Mom.
Mom is supposed to give them to Kara.
I'm sorry, she was busy. Here, come here. That's for you.
Those are 4 different languages of how to say handkerchief. It's a beginning. So what's my motto? I'll spare you. Do more than was expected. Go shoot. For the moon? No. Keep the eye on the prize. Keep your eyes on the prize. On the prize. And as an eyes are very important for me because I became a photography editor by mistake. I applied for something else, but they didn't have room, and they said, why don't you work in the art department? I said, art? I can't draw. So I became a person in a movie called The Devil Wore Prada. Anybody watch that movie? Yeah. The woman with that periwinkle, doofy, fuzzy sweater was me. I was the assistant to Helen Gurley Brown, and believe me, I did not fit in. I wanted to write the great American novel, not captions like when the boob tubes were in baby, boo-boos were the best part. It's really important. The boob tube, does anyone know what that is? What's a boob tube? When the television was very young, there was no recording. It was all live. So my favorite, this is called a tangent. One tangent? Yes. Anybody want to go like this? It's a short barrel. It's enough. Okay. The Alpo commercial kept the dog. It was a beef off steak. And the dog was salivating, couldn't wait. And the Alpo commercial guy put the little dish. The beagle flew out with everything flying. Not everything, but his tail and his ears. His ears dripped into the food. Ate up, scarfed up the stuff and everything. Great, terrific commercial. And then the dog looked at the camera and went, ugh. Now, why is that important? It's because find fun in life. Go around. Okay, Kara said I can't go anymore. Thank you for this award. It's not undeserved. But I don't know what to do with all the other awards I have. I'm holding up things in my kitchen. So if you give me another award, it's too crowded. But thank you anyway. I'm still proud. A sign of my obsession, I only have paper clips.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Come help me.
So I'm not just old, I've had 7 strokes, so
Oh,
it takes a little time to go up and down. And my doctor said, don't fall.
Yeah.
Right?
Good advice.
Okay. Shalom to everybody.
Shalom Uvracha.
Oh, that's fancier because I'm
I
only
know.
married.
I feel you deserve fancier.
I don't blame him.
You know how to keep a bagel from moving? It locks.
Who's this? Who are you?
I don't know, when Chaim,
That's my grandma.
Moshe Chaim.
Moshe Chaim. And Moscow, which translates into Hebrew or Hebrew. is-
Hebrew, right.
Right. And Moskowitz translates not into Hebrew Moscow. His mother was now in Moscow right now. My sister said, sit down now. Ben Moshe. means son of Moses.
Moshe, right.
Oh, I'm correct.
Right, you're
Okay,
right. You are
cool.
correct.
I love it. I'm right.
Great.
Thank you, Carol. You mentioned Alma Torres.
Yeah.
She was one of the first people I met when I first came to Staten Island Academy in the 6th grade. And she's the only person at Staten Island Academy at the time who was actually shorter than I was, so I really appreciated her. My name is Dan Master. I'm a graduate of this school, class of 71, and I sent my 2 children here. I think they were graduates of 2015 and 2017, but I'm a little murky. I'm getting nods of approval. The greatest thing about introducing distinguished alumni as opposed to athletic award alumni is that I can get through the presentation without mentioning someone's leg muscles or thighs of steel. I think you've got the beginnings of a great workout video there, Mike. Retire from the academy. Good morning or good afternoon. I'm not quite sure where we are right now. I feel honored to have been asked to present the next inductee, distinguished graduate Dean Irwin, class of 1967, to the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame. My presentation remarks are going to be divided into 3 parts. The first part is a run through of Dean's post-SIA career. These include kind of marquee resume items. Part 2 will be my reading of remarks sent to us from Joe Rollo, one of Dean's classmates in the class of 1967. And Joe Rollo is himself a distinguished graduate of the Academy. He's now residing in Texas, couldn't be here today. And finally, part 3 will be my own recollections of Dean from when we were both students at Staten Island Academy in the somewhat tumultuous 1960s. The marquee items. Dean graduated Staten Island Academy in 1967. He received his BA from the University of Michigan. For some unexplained reason, and I hope in his acceptance remarks he addresses this, Dean went on next to teach English at Morant High School in Jamaica, the West Indies. I guess he put West Indies in there to distinguish it from the more plausible Jamaica Queens. And perhaps your services were more needed in Jamaica Queens than they were in Jamaica, the West Indies, because they already speak English in Jamaica. I'm sure you found that out when you got there. Dean returned to the States to hone his television skills at the New School in Manhattan, and shortly thereafter found himself at ABC Television. And he worked the Olympics, summer and winter, in 1984 and 1988. He won a Peabody Award and 6 Emmys for his efforts there. 6 Emmys. Got to start counting on your fingers here. After conquering the wide world of sports, Dean moved on to the more cerebral side of ABC, becoming a producer for ABC's 2020 in the news division. Nice promotion there. In the process, he added 3 more Emmys to his collection. I think we're up to 9 Emmys now. Dean, some people collect stamps. Just so that you know. After ABC's 2020, Dean migrated to the even more cerebral Nova Science program. And he was at this point writing, producing, and directing these shows. So he was a veritable one-man show of shows. He also produced documentaries for the Secrets of New York series, winning yet another 3 Emmys in the process. That's 12, and I've run out of fingers at that point. 12 Emmys, not bad. Okay, so you had a successful career after you graduated from Staten Island Academy, but let's learn something about the young Dean Irwin at SIA. Dean Irwin in the larval stage, and I use the word stage advisedly. These are the remarks of the disembodied Joe Rollo, no magical screen coming down from the sky, Dean's classmate at SIA, and I am here to embody those remarks. Joe Rollo himself, very distinguished career post-SIA. He retired from the United States Air Force and held high-level positions in academia, such as the president of Angelo State University, vice chancellor of Texas Tech University, and the commissioner of education for the state of Louisiana. So here now the words of Joe Rollo. Dean and I first met in 7th grade, 1961, and were pretty much inseparable until graduation in 1967, when he went to Bucknell and I to Lafayette. We were paired as biology lab partners in 8th grade and revised the words to the 12 Days of Christmas to include parts being dissected from our dead cat. And in those days, I should let you know that they actually kept those animals to be dissected in formaldehyde, which they don't use anymore because it's cancer causing. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Together, that's Joe Rollo and Dean, we helped move from the St. George campus in 1964-65 to Toad Hill, leaving the iconic structure and its memories to a new venue. We would often sit outside on the fire escape and enjoy lunch, the view, and the Curtis High School students walking by. Sometimes they acknowledged our presence by throwing objects at us. Dean was always the creative person whose presence on the quill made it special. He always wrote beautifully with the ability to capture the spirit and nuance of whatever his topic. Clearly that talent was only the beginning of his career. And these are Joe Rollo's specific memories. We were the stage crew who set up and tore down the platforms since it was erected in the auditorium for each specific event. The role carried status and privilege to include more casual dress, no tie, and permanent hall passes. Our mentor hero was the art teacher, Bob Wiegand, an avant-garde, larger-than-life figure who taught art, but also had a loft in Soho. The idea that SIA could host what might have been termed a beatnik was a learning experience for us both. While Bob might have been a mentor, we learned as much from Alan Henney, custodians who drove the number 6 bus to move our stage equipment, and who also took us to the city via the ferry on at least one occasion. The old yellow bus parked in front of Radio City Music Hall must have been memorable for passers-by. I'm sure it was. Ruined the neighborhood, ruined the real estate values in the neighborhood, I'm sure. Dean and I created the first Chinese luncheon as a fundraiser for our class. Small boxes containing numbered tickets for prizes such as sewing needles, jams, and re-gifted holiday ornaments. That modest initiative later grew into much bigger things for the Staten Island Alumni Annual Auction. Finally, Dean's prowess was not apparent on the sports field since he never ventured there. He's never getting into the Hall of Fame on the athletic side, so you better appreciate this. His senior year award to future SIA coaches carries the sense of whimsy that made him stand out. It is my privilege to call him my friend, and this honor is well-deserved and timely. Those are the words of Joe Rollo. Finally, my recollection of Dean at SIA. Dean was a senior when I was in the 8th grade at the academy. So as all academy students know, seniors seem to stroll through the halls with a certain savoir-faire. There was something special. I always looked up to Dean for two reasons. First, he was a godlike senior. And second, I was about 4 feet tall in the 8th grade, as I mentioned before. So I was kind of looked up to everybody. But Dean was different. With his rosy cheeks and often tousled hair, he could be seen roaming the halls without the required tie and holding a tool of some sort. To the more casual observer, Dean might have been mistaken for a janitor or a custodian or some farm boy called in from the fields to fix a tractor. That's what he looked like, Dean. Dean was the head of the stage crew, and because SIA had no auditorium at the time, nothing fancy like this with a stage and pennants and awards. It had no stage, no auditorium. He had to assemble and disassemble the stage every time there was an event or a performance at Staten Island Academy. And this was no mean feat. The stage came in pieces. It had many long metal tubes, heavy metal tubes. There were bulky risers, and there were large panels of 3/4 inch plywood that needed to be carried by 2 or 3 or 4 people and put in place. Clearly, the school was violating the child labor laws, as they often did in those days, and they probably still do to this day. But no one seemed to care, least of all Dean, who spent more time in that gym than in the classroom. Much of that time was spent in the company of Joe Rollo. But here I hasten to add, there was a third as yet unheralded musketeer in their presence, and that was the sound man for all SI events. And I want to give a shout out here to their classmate, Bill Wells, who played an integral part in all of the academy events and performances of that era, as I'm sure Dean would testify to. I could say so much more about Dean, but I was promised a free hamburger if I came and did this, and I'm getting a little hungry, so I'm going to sign off here. And so I'm honored and proud to present this award to Dean Irwin, the class of 1967, and congratulate him on becoming a member of the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame. Make sure you get the right one.
Yes, that's it.
Want to proofread this.
My name's spelled right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dan. Gary. Maybe I'll drink Carol's Gatorade. Carol, you're a tough act to follow.
Feel free.
Wonderful to hear the words of Joe Rallo, my old friend. He really is distinguished. You know, he was the university president, a colonel in the Air Force, became a commissioner of higher education. I figured if Joe and I somehow in our old age ended up back at the academy and I got in trouble, I'd end up in Joe's office, you know, and fix would be in. You know, in 1967, the year I graduated, there were only 12 of us, 12 graduates. And I'm not sure how that happened. I think in the old St. George building, kids could go upstairs and they wouldn't be seen for a couple of years. And, you know, they wouldn't graduate. You know, I read in Reflections, the SIA magazine, an article by Stu Friedland. I remember Stu, he was a couple of years ahead of me. And I remember his brother Brian. And he threw in a couple of references to the Harry Potter books in his article. Talked about the old St. George building. And I know many of you never experienced that. Interesting old 1884 red brick Gothic kind of building. And it really was kind of like Hogwarts. I think people could disappear there for years and not be seen again. And like Stu Friedland, I also spent time in the basement with the custodian. That when I became confident enough to do that as an older student, because that was really kind of an in crowd down there. If you were with Al, who wore these Coke bottle glasses, always dark, you were sort of in the main nerve of the school, and you really felt that you had the control with Al to do anything you wanted. The only person who kept control of Al was Ginny Kearns, the legendary administrative assistant who knew every kid, every teacher. Her office was near the front door. She would see everybody who came in late. You couldn't put anything past Ginny. When Ginny needed something, she would yell. And I don't know how many people remember this. She would yell out her office, and she had a strident voice, and she would yell Al's name, because she needed something done. And her voice would carry from the basement to the top floor of that building. She would yell, "Al," and Al in his basement would hear her. And like Popeye the Sailor would say bad things under his breath. And he would finally do her bidding. In addition to Al and Ginny, who were irreplaceable, were a whole host of characters who were, in my day, the equivalent of the people you remember as teachers. There were some really marvelous teachers. There was a guy named Ron Mace who could teach anything to anybody. He was a genius. He could teach English, he could teach math. It was incredible. There was Wilfred Meyer, an older guy who had worked for Texaco as a chemist, who taught physics and chemistry, who could teach even a kid with no mathematical ability at all, like me, to become interested in physics. He's an interesting guy. Joe Rallo in his talk mentioned Bob Wiegand, the art teacher, who became my friend for life. He really made a big difference to me. And like Carol, I also have a French experience. There was a married couple, an older couple named the Aubins. Dr. Aubin taught English, very distinguished Harvard graduate. And Mrs. Aubin, whom we called Madame, was not only a French speaker, a native French woman, but she had that gallant craziness. She was really intense. And she would say things at a final exam. She said to me, "Well, since you do it so well, it will not count so much for you." What do you say? You know? Merci, madame. So besides those great people, who are of course gone now, Bob Wiegand is gone, I imagine Mr. Meyer is gone. They really taught us not only their subject, but they taught us to figure out what we didn't know. Bob Wiegand, in addition to the stage crew, the reason the stage crew happened was that there was nobody else to put the stage together. We volunteered. And Bob said, "Listen, you have talent in writing. I want you to write a play, and I need it by next week. And I want you to put the stage together for it and light it." I didn't know how to do that, but I figured it out. So Dr. Aubin taught me how to write a well-disciplined academic essay, which came in handy a few years later when I found myself at ABC News and I had to write a script. You know, I also found out that writing a TV script is different than writing an essay at Staten. You have to go out there. You got to fly into people's homes. You have to take a plane. You have to go to some small town. And you have to confront people and ask them to come up with the words that you're going to use in your script, in addition to your own words. I mean, suppose that person that you're talking to killed somebody. Suppose they're talking to you from a prison cell. Suppose it's a hospital where they've been seriously injured because of an accident. It's not always easy to put a script together. And nobody really taught me how to do that. But because I went to a progressive and nurturing high school, I was able to figure it out. And that, I think, is the essence of a school like SIA. Harvey MacArthur was the headmaster of SIA for most of my years there. And he had a talent for picking at kids and making them confident in their talent. And he did that with me, and I'll never forget. Harvey MacArthur is the guy who moved the school from the old St. George building to this campus. And he was a wonderful guy. The teachers were a wonderful team. And I think it's as important for kids as we were then to be informed, because high school is, I think, more important than college in that way. I think we're younger. I think we're more impressionable. And those teachers made a great difference, because instilling self-confidence is every bit as important as instilling knowledge, with the possible exception of the multiplication tables, which I really wish I'd learned. But I'm grateful for Staten Island Academy instilling that self-confidence in me. And I think that's what the school is really all about. Thank you so much. I went to Jamaica in the West Indies because I needed a job. There was a job slump in 1971, and I needed work. So Jamaica let me in. That's why. Thank you.
I'm Frank Crane, the upper school director. And before I begin my remembrance of Scott Polanco, I want to let everyone know that Mike Mazzell and I had a meeting during the ceremony where we are going to revamp the entire curriculum. Learned a lot today. So, but good afternoon. And I want to start by thanking Mr. and Mrs. Polanco, Paris, and her daughters, Abby and Cara, for this opportunity to celebrate Scott. I'm hard pressed to think of anyone who has represented the Academy as well as Scott, a man who distinguished himself as a son, a student, a naval officer, a professional, a husband, and a father. It is an honor to speak on his behalf today, and I only hope that my remarks will measure up to Scott's accomplishments and legacy. Scott Polanco and I met for the first time in the fall of 1997. I was the then much younger history teacher working with grade 9. He was the dewy-eyed freshman adjusting to his new school, the Academy. It might sound trite to say that we hit it off immediately, but we did. Frankly, it was impossible not to. We shared so many interests, so many favorites, it seemed as if we were destined to find one another. Furthermore, who would have known then that we actually shared the most important thing of all? The first thing we shared, of course, the first shared interest was history. Arriving to class in K1 on time every day, Scott always sat up front at a desk at the door. In his quiet, unassuming way, he distinguished himself by being ready to answer every question and by responding thoughtfully to every prompt. Never bold or brash, Scott nonetheless demonstrated a vast knowledge of historical figures and events and proved even more eager to learn more. Scott welcomed the challenge, never waned in his love of historical questions, conundrums, or debates. In fact, he thrived on the detective work that underlies all historical research. Unfortunately, I have misplaced a copy of Scott's history thesis from Stevens, and those of you who've seen my office understand completely. But I do remember the envelope and the pride that I felt as a teacher seeing the product of my students' labors. It did not take long for Scott and me to realize that we both shared a passion for sports as well, specifically the Buffalo Bills and the New York Yankees. If memory serves, Scott and I were quick to point out to the myriad of Jets and Giants fans that their teams really were from New Jersey, reminding them that the Bills were the only NFL team that actually played its games on Terra, New York. Further, we shared the ecstasy of repeated and frequent Yankee World Series victories and the agony and ignominy of the Bills' 4 consecutive Super Bowl losses in the early 1990s. Let me say this, being a Bills fan is a lonely road. Choosing that path is not for the faint of heart. The team teases you in the preseason and tramples your heart somewhere between October and January every year. I grew up in Buffalo. I had no choice, but Scott chose the Bills, a frustrating team from a blue-collar Rust Belt city, ever searching for the promises. If our choices speak to who we really are, this choice speaks volume about Scott's character. Bills fans, win or lose, are largely hardworking lunch pail types, working toward the fulfillment of the American dream. The squad is not one of the NFL's elites, and hardly one of the league's glitterati. Being a Bills fan is more odyssey than a pleasure cruise, but Scott and I are also reminded people that the Bills were truly America's team. They wear red, white, and blue. Scott and I also shared a great passion for this country and other things that are red, white, and blue. We enjoyed handicapping politics and elections, discussing American history, and talking about distinguished Americans. That said, I could never match Scott's record of service, from the Navy to NASA, to his work with Habitat for Humanity. Scott embodied a vision of citizenship that goes back to ancient Rome. According to legend, Cincinnatus left his farm to defend Rome. And after the revolution, George Washington's officers formed the Society of Cincinnati to celebrate the hardworking citizen who leaves civilian life to serve the greater good. From wearing his country's uniform, to advancing America's mission in space, to helping people to have a home, Scott's entire career of public service echoed the most honored traditions. And in that sense, he is one of my heroes and worthy of endless accolades. Finally, Scott and I had another thing in common that we never could have imagined when we first met in 1997, or even when he graduated in 2001. Little did we know that we would both share our lives with women who graduated from the academy. Rumor has it that Scott always loved Paris, in which case we have definitive proof that Scott was smarter than me. His Mensa membership is an indicator too, because it took me a good year or two to realize that I had a chance of a lifetime right before me. Either way, Scott and I were both intuitively drawn to brilliant, dynamic, funny, well-educated, and capable women. The Academy is often referred to as a family, and for Scott and for me, it was and is the truest thing. We both found true love on this 12-acre campus. Additionally, we were each blessed with 2 beautiful children and supportive and loving extended families. Of the many things that Scott and I shared, being blessed in this way at a small school is the most amazing and most meaningful. To finish, I want to thank the Polanco and Charles family again for doing me this honor. Long before today, Scott stood out among the thousands of young people I have worked with over 30 years and in several different schools. I regret now that I did not speak with Scott more in recent years. No doubt, we were both busy with work, family, and our own health issues, and our interactions, largely through Instagram, were brief but supportive. And with that, my former student has taught me one of life's great lessons. Make time for those special people in your life. No matter what is on the calendar or the to-do list, there's always time to debate history, celebrate Yankee victories, and to connect after crushing Bills losses. Scott, I thank you for our shared interests and a life well lived. We will all try to follow in your way. Thank you.
Wait. That's right. Thank you.
I wasn't really expecting to say anything today, happens to be the 10-month anniversary of his passing. And so he is truly missed. He loved SIA. He loved being here, playing football with us. He loved all his teachers. You know, he would have loved this. And he was very proud of where he came from. I don't know.
I mean, just hearing everyone's stories today, brings back a lot of memories. Wow, this is just such a great place. Not only helping teach a sense of independence, but interdependence, being able to rely on others, building lifelong friendships, seeing people like Jeremy, Alexis, teachers, reminiscing. We'd always bring up stories, Mr. Crane, Mr. Mansky, many others.
Playing football with Zealous Tie.
So it's just it's really an honor, and I know you'd be honored. He would shy away from the attention, but he would truly be honored today. It's just a real privilege to be part of this family, Staten Island Academy. So thank you all.
Thank you, baby.
What's that, Dad? Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah.
The water?
We have a water.
My name is Rose Bruno. I was the girls' varsity basketball coach from, I think it was 2009 to 2016. And during that era, we had many ups and downs and a lot of championships, but the highlight of my tenure here at Staten Island Academy was definitely coaching Corinne Vance. So I'm very honored and thank everybody for having me here today, and I'm very honored to be presenting her this award. Corinne is one of those kids that you never forget. So I met her when she was in elementary school in the gym. And of course, I saw her athleticism and had to ask who that kid was, and found out she was interested in Staten Island Academy. And when she came, and I had my first practice with her, and she was scrimmaging against, trying out as a freshman against the older kids, I was like, wow. I think somebody mentioned talking about like athletic legs, and they don't have to speak about that in their previous school. She had the most athletic legs and the most athletic ability that I've ever seen on a 14-year-old girl. So right away, you look at this kid and you're like, wow, she has so much potential that she can go anywhere with anything. So it's really amazing to see now, 6 years post-graduation, where she has come. And that's really the evolution of a student athlete, is to use that athleticism to get somewhere in life. So I'm happy to say that Corinne is a registered nurse at a children's hospital, and she's saving lives. And it's very emotional to me because I worked at the same hospital. I was also a pediatric registered nurse. So there is like a bond with her that is far past athletics. She is a kid that you dream about coaching. I hope my daughters, I have 3 daughters, I hope they grow up to be like her. And 2 of them got to be in the gym at the same time with her. So I basically, if you remember me, my brother's Christopher Renault, so I feel like that says enough. There was an era where it was me, my father was the JV coach, our assistant coach, and then Chris involved in athletics. And we just lived on campus for that time period. And it was a lot of fantastic memories. But all of them really kind of gravitate towards the era that I had Corinne Vance. So she was the kid that you didn't have to ask to hit the baseline. She was the kid that you didn't have to ask to go D up and get the rebound and make the play. But she was the kid that we had to turn to and say, you're not shooting the ball enough, Corinne. Take the shot. We need for you to hit this game-winning shot. So for me, it was the coachability that really was unique and amazing. Never an attitude, never had a problem. She played through injuries and illnesses. Bleeding on the court, coming out 5 seconds later, miraculously, she's back in the game. We took the program. She took the program. Really, it's really about the kids. She took the program from, we started in an independent league, and it progressed to winning state championships. So we were battling for Hackley and Dalton and all of our independent schools that we struggled with, and then we beat them. And then we said, all right, let's go up. we're going up. So we won the C-States. Corinne comes into the school, we go big. We eventually win big. Her senior year, down 15 up in Albany against Janesville DeWitt. Mean girls, so fun. Janesville DeWitt. So we're down 15 in the fourth quarter. Turned to my captain, my senior, my leader, like, let's go, Corinne, come on. And rallied around a couple of really good sequences in her. She brought home the 8-state title. She had a perfect ending of her high school career. She finished on a win. Not many people get to end their season with a W. She won with the state championship. She had 2 Jakes Awards, where if you don't know girls basketball, the Jakes Awards is for the best boy and girl player on Staten Island. She won it twice. First time ever a girl basketball player has ever won it at Staten Island Academy. First time ever a Staten Island Academy had a state championship in the C, B, and A in girls basketball, the sports they have as well. And it really ended up coming from start to finish, looking at, all right, this is a great high school career for her. But really, she was the most genuine, sincere student athlete ever. So when you look at girls basketball here at Staten Island Academy, I think you just gravitate towards Corinne Bass, the legacy that she left here. And an athletics perspective, like that is everything. So we follow WNBA, she's our Diana Taurasi. Okay, she's not going to be the last, but she was really the first that propelled us to a different level. So Corinne, I think that this is the perfect award for you because you are the face of women's basketball here. And I think for years to come, everybody's going to look at your name on the 1,000-point list and look at the brochure that you were inducted and say, she was really good. She was really good. You're going to get older and come to Staten Island, and other people are going to bring their kids to you and say, you won the Jakes. You were that kid from Staten Island Academy. So it is my pleasure to present you with this Hall of Fame Award because it is perfect for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Staten Academy, for this tremendous honor. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years since I walked these halls, 6 years since I wore my last Tiger jersey and played for my favorite coach. A lot has happened since then. I played Division I and Division II basketball, earned my degree in nursing, and started working at Children's Hospital as a pediatric nurse. But none of it would have been possible without Staten Academy. Staten Academy laid a strong foundation for my future. It was on this campus that I found myself. I had the full support of the faculty throughout my time here. And because of their guidance and support, I learned what it meant to be a leader, honed my academic, athletic, and leadership skills, found my voice, and paved the way for a successful future. However, the faculty of Staten Academy is more than just faculty. They served as my mentors, my role models, and even my friends. Mr. and Mrs. Crane in particular have been 2 of my biggest fans throughout my time at SIA and beyond. They are 2 of the most caring and supportive people I have ever met, along with Mr. Rapp, who came to countless games throughout my high school and collegiate career and showed his unwavering support. And while these people, along with many others, cheered me on from the sidelines during my days on the court, there was one person in my ear always cheering me on and pushing me to play my best. Rose. Although it's been some time since I played on a court for you, even when I was playing for other coaches, it was your voice in my head motivating me. You were probably the hardest on me, but I'm better for it. You were my toughest critic at times, but also being my #1 fan, my biggest advocate, and my favorite coach. I mean it when I say I wouldn't be where I am today without all of your support. You saw potential in me that I didn't always see, and I'll forever be grateful for that. I can also thank Staten Academy for giving me lifelong friends who I'm lucky to have sitting here today. Finally, I want to thank the people that made any of this possible, my family. While my mom and dad could not be here today, I couldn't let this moment go by without thanking them for everything they've done for me. They made plenty of sacrifices to help me get where I am today. And while I may not always say it, I truly am beyond thankful for every single thing they have done for me. To my sisters and my brother, thank you for your unwavering love and support. I'm blessed to have all three of you for siblings. There is no one else I would want to do this life with. All of you came to countless games, and I hope you know how much your support has meant to me. I want to just thank you again to Staten Island Academy, not just for today, but for everything. And thank you for everyone for coming out today.
I feel like I've done that plenty of times following Corinne at the podium where I had to actually get a step stool to remove the mic and bring it down to my level. So I have the honor to speak on behalf of Staten Island Academy's 2008-2009 varsity women's soccer team. Personally, I had the privilege to watch them play, win, and simply embody the joy of the game. I also had the privilege to see them right here on the stage, performing, singing, playing instruments, and most importantly, I had the privilege of watching them be incredibly successful in the classroom. The team was one of the hardest working squads to take the academy field, and their combination of skill, discipline, and chemistry was evident. I never played soccer or was much of a fan until this team came along. There was just something about them. Their work ethic and ability to have fun was unmatched. They took the age-old saying, work hard, play hard, to an entirely new level. As we know, behind every great team is a great coach, and this was no exception. The powerhouse squad was coached by the one and only Darlene Crow. One can say that this team was in the making once Darlene joined our academy family as a science teacher in 1986. Darlene was an All-American pitcher at CW Post and led them to a national championship game. From the beginning, we knew Darlene was a gamer. She was going to instill in our student athletes that same power. Darlene challenged students in the classroom and on the field, coaching field hockey, middle school boys and girls basketball, and boys varsity volleyball. Eventually, however, the field hockey program was taken over by soccer, and Ms. Crow soon became the head coach for the soccer team. During her time coaching this women's soccer program between 2007 and 2011 seasons, they compiled an impressive 77 wins, 12 losses, and 2 ties. Darlene Crow was their coach. Darlene Crow as their coach has been inducted into the LIU Post, NYC PSAL, and Staten Island Sports Hall of Fame. So the fact that she led a team to the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame was no surprise. Ms. Crow not only was a contributing member of this team who had been inducted to the Hall of Fame in the past. Jessica Landra, one of the captains of the team, went on to play Division I soccer at Davidson. Danielle Fuller continued her soccer career at Stony Brook, and Amanda Michelle went on to play at the University of Vermont. They've all been inducted into the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame as individual soccer student athletes. Additionally, Erin Gibbons, who went on to play lacrosse at the college level, was inducted into the Hall of Fame as an individual lacrosse student athlete. But don't let this Hall of Fame fact fool you. These 4 women were impactful for the team for sure, but this team was sincerely 18 women strong. 5 more of these women went on after graduating from the academy to play athletics at Division I, II, and III programs. Gabby Chicarco played at Wagner College, Demi Craggs played at Pace, Sarah Valero played at Roanoke, Jamie Chiat played at SUNY Oneonta, and Emily Prendergast went on to play lacrosse at Mount Holyoke. Yes, the combination of skill, discipline, and chemistry was supported by the 9 women who played at the next level or had been inducted into the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame. But I cannot emphasize again that this team was 18 women strong. The skill, the discipline, and the chemistry started in lower school. Right here at Staten Island Academy, when Ashley Dapolito, Blair Christian, Maya Skatelski, Jenna Dezio, and Isla Ing. Miss Crow knew then she had her eye on these soccer girls and their development as they entered the gym and got out on the fields at those very young ages. It only became more evident that we would have something special to build on when Brianna Calcagno joined with others in middle school. And then the team started to form as grade 9, Julia Holmes, Stephanie Taplin, and CJ Veneri rounded out the impressive 18 women strong roster. During their 2008 and 2009 season, these amazing 18 women had a record 14 wins, 1 tie, and unfortunately, 1 loss. They scored 71 goals in 16 games and only allowed 14 goals by their opponents. It was no doubt that the campus was buzzing in the fall of 2008 as the team was putting together its most successful season ever, while making an incredible run for the finals of the New York State Association of Independent Schools postseason tournament. Not only did they capture the PSAA regular season title, they captured the PSAA playoff championship as well. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every game for this team was a walk in the park. If I remember correctly, some games came down to the wire. It was dark, it was cold, and you could barely see the ball sometimes, but they played on. That hard work and determination was tested many times throughout the season, and they never let it stop them. In the New York State Association of Independent Schools semifinals, they played a double overtime game against a dominant Riverdale and took it to penalty kicks. No surprise, the Tigers rose to the challenge as goals by Gabby Chicargo, Jess Scalandra, Jamie Chiat, Sarah Valero allowed Staten Island Academy to advance to the finals in a thrilling 2-1, 4-1 penalty kick victory. And of course, we could not forget Jamie as the wall in the net. I don't want to dwell on the fact that the team suffered its only loss of the season in a 2-0 decision to Hackley at Columbia University in the New York State Association of Independent Schools final. Although it did not end as they hoped, it was still a season to remember. To put it in perspective, just 3 years prior to this team starting their 2008 campaign, the girls soccer program had a 1 win and 10 loss season. So in finishing with a 17-win season, this team began a remarkable turnaround for the girls program our soccer girls still benefit from today on the pitch. The roster was filled with playmakers at every position. It was spearheaded on offense by 2 advanced all-stars, center midfielder Jess Calandra, who had 21 goals and 17 assists on the season, and who was also selected as the New York State Class D first team after the season. And we can't forget striker Amanda Michelle, 33 goals and 10 assists on the season. Defensively, the Tigers were incredible with the tremendous speed and instincts and smarts of Sarah Valero, the team's steady and often spectacular sweeper, and of course, our goalie, Jamie Chiat. Not unlike the U.S. soccer team, affectionately called the 99ers, they launched a movement around soccer. This team did the same for us here at Staten Island Academy. The team embodies a remarkable collection of talents. All who saw them play would agree that they set the standard by which all other academy teams will be measured. And let it be clear that this team didn't just dominate on the field. When I tell you in pure academy fashion. They dominated on the stage, acting, singing, playing instruments. They dominated in their community service all across Staten Island. And of course, they dominated academically in the classroom. Truly 18 strong in all parts of the academy way. So although you are like the 99ers, I would ask as you come to the stage, you don't pull a Brandy Chastain, just not today. So please join me in welcoming. Please join me in welcoming. I probably should have mentioned that because now they'll call me on it. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Staten Island Academy 2008-2009 Varsity Women's Soccer Team on being inducted into the Alumni Athletic Hall of Fame.
Thank you for that incredible introduction. Success is never a straight path. When Jenna Desio, Ashley Dapolito, Jamie Shia, and I started our freshman year in 2005, we were almost additions to the boys soccer team. It was the initial year of the return of the girls program, made only possible by Miss Pro begging a number of girls to join the team so we'd have enough to complete a legal roster. Those she recruited never played the game before, never touched a ball, but still chose to proudly represent their school. They unknowingly helped start the journey of a future girls soccer program that would go on to make some history. Thank you to those young women who first said yes and gave this team a chance. That year, our team went 1-10. Those initial games were painful at times, but I could tell you that one win was sweet. And a funny thing about winning, it makes you want more. And more there was. Each year built upon the last, a little faster, a little stronger, and a little more complete. Until finally the 2008-2009 season approached, and if you watched our team play our first few games that year, we quickly had the feeling we weren't the 1-10 underdogs anymore. The script was finally flipped that year, going on a 17-1 run. I don't remember the details of that last game, but I do remember is that we didn't want it to end. And in a way, it didn't. After this historic season, the girls soccer program continued to flourish, and that's something that we're truly proud of. On behalf of all of us, the biggest and most heartfelt thank you to Ms. Crow, who is undoubtedly the engine of this team, supporting us, but also continuously challenging us to be better teammates, better leaders, and better people, and help build a true team culture of commitment. Thank you to the Hall of Fame Induction Committee and the SIA faculty for the unique honor of recognizing our entire team. We loved our teammates, we loved the game, we loved competing, and we loved bringing some big wins and championships to a school that had done so much for us, both on and off the field. Thank you.
Anyone else want the mic? I'm sure.
It's great. Can you get a photo?
Yeah. Let them get there.
Yes.
So much. Oh, not right, right. Down. We've all done this before. Let's go, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, take one of just that, and then I'll join you.
Ready?
Thank you.
No, I Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, sure.
So in closing, I want to thank you all for being with us today, for all of you who participated this afternoon, and another round of applause for all of our inductees. Without a doubt that every inductee here today made their Staten Island Academy family proud, not only as a student, but they've continued to do so long after their graduation, personally and through the work that they've done. So thank you. I hope that you are all inspired, as I am, to continue to be leaders on the field and in the classroom and demonstrate all that what Staten Island Academy has taught each and every one of us to do each day. I look forward to seeing you all at Kettle Black in just a bit to celebrate everyone in this room and our larger alumni community. And never forget, once a tiger, always a tiger. Thanks. That burger, Master, let's go.
Yeah.